guess I'll start with an introduction. I'm Isabel. I am a graduate student here at Widener. I'm in the Human Sexuality program. I'm doing my MED, and I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with it, to be straight up honest, because, but I love disability, clearly. I have cerebral palsy, which I don't know if all of you know what that is, but I'll explain it real quick. It's a neurological condition. It's like when I was a really tiny little embryo developing in the womb, some kind of connection or some sort of little incident in the brain has caused this. So this is like a lifelong thing. It's like totally normal to me. Honestly, I think able-bodied people look really weird walking around with 4 legs. So, I mean, that's kind of just how I've been operating. What to say? I am going to be using the terms disabled people and people with disabilities interchangeably. That's just how I understand the terms. We're going to talk about person first and disability first language, but that'll come later. So we'll figure that out. So why don't I crowdsource it and ask you, what is disability? Anybody else want to take a stab at it?
Permanent trait that's generally irreversible.
Could be.
It can be visible or invisible.
Yes. Yeah. We talked about that. Anybody else? Okay. All right. So I put up some statistics. These are really general and probably not, I don't know if they're actually accurate, but this is what I could find. So there is no official number for invisible disabilities because we can't see them. And a lot of people don't even know that they even have them, so how do we measure it? I mean, it's like impossible. But it's estimated that there's 7.1% of the population with physical disability. So chances are you're going to run into somebody in your work, and it's going to be important that you sort of are ready for it. It's also estimated that there's 5% of the population has cognitive disabilities. It's a huge range of what cognitive disabilities are. That's just what the statistic gave me. There are 3.5% of the population has a hearing disability, so partial hearing, deafness, full deafness, a whole bunch of different parts. And then 2.3% of the population has a vision disability, so partial blindness, legally blind, full blind, whatever it may be, colorblind. And then it's estimated that 50% of adults with disabilities do not engage in sexual activity. That is really sad. That is a sad statistic. And like, when I looked this up, for a second I was like, oh, I can't believe this. This is ridiculous. This is not true. And then it kind of set in like, wait, there are so many people with disabilities who are in residential facilities who are not able to have sex because of privacy issues, staffing issues, whatever it may be. So many things. And yeah. Okay. So with the person next to you, or people next to you, whoever you want to work with, take out a sheet of paper if you have one. If you don't, that's okay. Just talk about these questions. I just want you to ask each other, what does it mean to be disabled? And maybe think about people in your family, experiences that you may have had being disabled yourself. Just think about it. Talk about it with your partner. What does able-bodied mean? Talk about that with your partner, because there are a lot of different definitions, and I don't have all the answers to that. And then talk with your partner about what is able-bodied privilege, and also talk about what is ableism. First, before we go into ableism and ask a question about it, does anybody know what it is?
It's not being inclusive of people with disabilities.
Yeah. It's prejudice. that's basically, yeah, it's terrible. So get in your groups and talk it through. I'll give you a couple minutes. And then we'll come back to it.
Disabilities. Any way that
I haven't done
the way that society expects.
Or super that I feel it every day.
I think for me it's easier to decide human body to see it as a way so like
Not being reasonable society expects.
someone
Whether or not those things are reasonable for society is fairly simple.
I don't know, like this is like for all people about, but one aspect of it that I think of is something that's long term. So, but I don't know if it's in any way that like ours of disability. Maybe it's an illness that they can recover from or anything that could be wrong, but I think of it in a long term.
Unless somebody says temporary.
I guess it's a bit, yeah. But it's still generally pretty common. Like yeah, that's like a
But I think of the body
Yes.
is just having only, either having no disabilities or only having everything. Like, okay, yeah, I will rise.
Right. You can do yourself.
It'll go.
I guess then there's so many different levels to that.
Honestly, I mean,
Like because one might be weird, but still considered.
Yeah, at least as far as.
all right, 1 more minute to talk.
There's definitely privilege that I think often taken for granted, like it's not accepted. And not realizing that not anymore. Like even earlier, like making
I know mental health
in the room, like I would have never thought of that, and then I was in the way, and I was like, oh shit, like all of it is what am I doing? Centered in this house.
Yeah, like part of the apocalypse, I actually think it's like this. People wearing glasses.
Yeah.
So like any disability can disappear.
True, yeah.
And I've had to battle equally with lives, especially especially with this program,
Or even like that.
not really understanding mental health disability and being faced with a lot of
That's interesting.
and the program not understanding that disability. And I wanna call them out and be like, you stop being so fucking ableist. But then at the same time, I want to be in the program.
Being part of the able bodies. And then with language, I feel like always saying that without people who may have a disability, I feel like you're still very able to have language. I don't. That's one thing I want to get. Like,
All right, finish up your last thoughts and we'll come back
You're
together.
not saying this for some aspect. Yeah.
I definitely recommend
All right, let's come back and let's talk about these questions as a group. So in your groups, I heard some really good things. I heard a lot of great conversations going on, and that's part of why I like doing, kind of like having conversations happen in workshops just anytime I go to one, I guess when I'm doing one, because this is a topic that we need to talk about. So who wants to share what they came up with, or what does it mean to be disabled? Yeah.
To not be able to do something the way that society expects you to do it. Meg mentioned that the way that she's approaching disability now is that it's different for everyone, and that at one point or another, up to 80% of us will be disabled in one way or another.
Yeah, that's true. That's
And then have to take a piece of stuff in your developmental path and kind of relearn how to live life.
Yep, that's great.
I view it as affecting the social construct. If you don't fit in, then you're different. That's how we see it. But I don't know. I view as disability as a strength because you really have to learn how to deal with it. So you get stronger as time goes by, and you hone on that, and that's what moves you.
That's so great. Yes. Clearly, I come from a disability positivity standpoint, and that really just hit it on the head. That's great. Yeah, it's a struggle, but it's a good struggle in a way, in a lot of ways. But I can't speak for anybody else. I can just speak for myself. So how about the next question? What does able-bodied mean? Anybody want to take a crack at it? I know, it's weird.
You fit society's standards of how you're supposed to be.
Yes,
basically.
2 legs. 2 legs, walking straight, no limp. Yeah, I mean, pretty much what everybody is compared to is this able-bodied standard. I always feel like I have to say it like that, like able-bodied. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I think it is lacking a disability.
Yeah.
We talked about like how language is problematic and how able-bodied sounds just like the physical body, and disability could be physical or mental or anything else. So we were talking about how language is. It's really hard to tell what you're talking about unless you're specific about it.
Yeah, language is weird.
Yeah, and that's what a little bit what we're talking about is when it says able-bodied, I'm like, there's people with disabilities that are very able and capable of everything that I do. So it just, that sounds weird. And I don't know if we'll learn like more language or different ways of talking about things.
So how about the next one? What is able-bodied privilege? Kind of talked about it already, but
for the most part, not having to be concerned about whether you're going to be able to do something or whether other community spaces are going to be accommodating for you.
Or whether people will perceive you to be able to do something or not able to do something.
yes, assumptions. That's going to come up a lot too. This workshop, assumptions. Just try not to make them, please. When you're working with disabled people, just ask questions. That's really the main thing. And then we already talked about what is ableism, but if anybody has something else to add to that, go ahead and talk about that. Yeah.
I think having an able-bodied privilege makes people not realize when they're being ableist.
Yeah.
Coming from someone that has an invisible disability, I've been fighting a lot recently with ableism, but because I come from an oppressed area, I can't scream at the top of my lungs, stop being so fucking ableist, because there will be consequences if I do that.
Yeah. I mean, speaking out about ableism to people who don't really understand what it is or don't want to hear it is so ridiculous. It's difficult. Yeah, go ahead.
I think ability falls into a spectrum, much like gender and sexual orientation, and I think it's one of the most lacking, even within the field of sexuality. And
I've attended a couple different things, and one was very ASEC did a summer institute on sexuality and disability. So it was very focused. But I've attended other things that disability it doesn't talk about at all, not at all. So Feminista was saying in the conference earlier, when it's not said, you have to be the one that say something. And as an able-bodied person, but with very close connections to disability, I have a very hard time both voicing those opinions and understanding exactly what I'm voicing. I'm just bringing it to light. The fact that it needs to be talked about sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's good in its own right. I think in order to create change, we have to make people feel uncomfortable. Because it's just the only way that people are going to actually start thinking about what's going on. So I put a little blurb about ableism here, and then an example of a little. It seems innocent, but it's really like annoying to disabled people. I'm just gonna read it. Why do gyms have handicapped parking spots? There should be a question. Like, I'm pretty sure if you're handicapped, you aren't going to make it to the gym for a while. Oh gosh. I have been going to the gym for years, and I park in the handicapped spot, and I feel very proud about that. And then I go into the gym, and people are like, oh, did you mean to go to the movie theater around the corner? Oh, were you supposed to be here? I'm like, are you serious right now? Yes, disabled people work out. We do, and it's amazing. We already kind of talked about this. So. This is what the ADA says about disability. This is their clear-cut legal definition. An individual with a disability is defined by the ADA as a person who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. A person who has a history or record of such an impairment, or a person who is perceived by others as having such an impairment. Oh, impairment. It's such a, I don't know, it's such a dark word to me. Yeah, I don't like this definition. I think I like it in the sense that the ADA is trying to allow places to be more accessible, and I think that's great. I really do. But in order for the law to listen to the ADA and to have everything work out, they have to come up with a definition like this, so they can measure if a person is disabled or not. But I think we were talking about a spectrum. I don't know if you said that, but that was great, because it is a spectrum, and even culturally thinking about it, it's all a spectrum. It's all, I mean, disabled people are not one and the same. Everybody's like a snowflake. I think disability is all about, it's really all about like identity for me personally. It's about how I live my life and how I became who I am and all the struggles. It's all part of that. It's all the history of disability in the United States. It's the culmination of things. So, okay, what are the different types of disabilities?
Physical, developmental, learning.
Mental.
Yeah, you're all correct. Yeah. Any more? Yeah. It's an infinite list. I mean, really. Disabilities can be all types of things. My brother has a disability. He can't be in the sun for longer than like 10 minutes because he starts getting this really intense hives rash. That's a disability for him, because when his wife wants to go to the beach, my brother's like, oh, no, I'm not going to the beach. That's not happening. So it just sort of changes things.
That example also makes me think about people who can't eat gluten now. Like, that's a very common thing we hear. And that, if you think about it, that impairs, like, them out in society. Like someone was saying earlier, she can't find something to eat this morning, you know? So it's just interesting, like, flipping that and thinking, reframing it.
Yeah, oh, it definitely could be.
It's striking me that the ADA definition that you put up, the last sentence is about other people perceiving that you have a disability. So like, it's being a woman with disability. Because a lot of people in our culture believe that like that's a disability, or being queer is a disability. So it's really interesting that they include other people's perceptions of you as part of that.
It's really good. I was thinking about that too. So it's like, if I'm walking on the street, somebody, for me to get ADA accommodations, somebody has to see me as disabled. Where does that leave the invisible disability people? I mean, it doesn't do anything. Also, the ADA is really focused on physical disability anyway, but it can definitely stand to look into invisible disabilities because it's a big part of our population. So these are the type. These are just some. You all listed them. Great job. Now we're going to go into the models. These are theoretical models of disability. I thought I'd put these in here to give you sort of a baseline. If you already know them, awesome. If you learn something new, so the medical model. Yeah, I'm talking about it in a negative way because I think it's terrible. But we're going to go through it because I think it's important to know about this. So under the medical model, disability is not valued. It's something that needs to be cured. It's something that can't really exist, and everything in the medical model is compared to able-bodiedness. So I guess I could give an example from my own life. When I was little, I walked on my tippy toes, and it was really cute, and I never felt any pain from it or anything, but my parents were like, there's something wrong with you. We need to take you to the doctor. I'm like, okay, fine. But as a kid, I didn't really have any agency to say no, nor did I even know I had any in the first place as a disabled kid. And so my parents took me and I got this surgery, and it changed the whole course of my life. So it's like, I don't know. I saw the doctor and I thought, oh, you're clearly professional. You clearly know what you're doing, so I'm just going to roll with it. And I didn't question it at all. And I think that's a problem with the medical model. And definitely, like, the United States right now, that's the main model. Is the medical model. It's like, we need to cure disability. Yeah, it looks at disability as a medical problem that needs to be fixed. It's pathological. We should have everybody looking the same. And the disabled person can't make decisions for themselves in this model. And there's a doctor. And then I wanted to do like a visual representation of this model. So for this model, forgive my terrible drawing skills. I don't have any. So in this model, the person is the problem. So it's like, it's intrinsic to the person. Like the disabled person's got something wrong with them. Clearly they need to be fixed. And so that's kind of how I think about it. It's all these little arrows. All these people are coming to disabled people telling them, this is what you need to do. I know best. This is the charity tragedy model. This is another model in the United States. Definitely, it's pretty prevalent, but I think the medical model is way more prevalent. But there's a little cartoon. It says, we have removed the barriers for you, but you're still tragic victims. And they knock down some financial barriers. I can't even read the other one. But yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I mean, nonprofits, if you'll see, like certain nonprofits, I think there are a lot of great nonprofits, by the way, but there are some that use disability as a way to make people give money, like as an object for people to feel bad about. So then, oh, I feel so bad for this little kid. I need to give them all my money and I need to take care of them. And it's, again, it's losing agency for the disabled person. Let's go. This is the model that I really like. This is the minority model of disability. Also, the social model of disability. They're kind of related. But this one says that the problem is not with the disabled person. The problem is with society. Society needs to make some changes so disabled people are able to live happily and comfortably out in the world, doing their thing. And I like this cartoon because it says, weigh in, everyone welcome. And the person in the wheelchair is like, I can't get up those stairs. Yeah, disability is valued as a minority identity culture, which I already explained that, you guys got it. And it allows for greater agency. In this model, the disabled person makes all the decisions for themselves, at least most of them, to their best ability. Does anybody have any questions before we go on?
So thinking about the medical model and this model, so I agree with everything you said about the medical model. I agree with it. But there are definitely things being done to try to incorporate this kind of thinking into the medical treatment of disability. There are model systems being made, and patient-centered care is definitely the same thing, not new, but it's being talked about more and more, and putting the patient as the head of their healthcare team instead of the physician or therapist or something like that. So it's really cool to know that they're trying to kind of cross the barriers between the models. Or some people are researchers or
Yeah, I mean, I think medicine can do great things. I mean, it really can. I think there's a point where doctors are telling people too much what to do, but I really like that whole like full team working together. I think that's really important. If healthcare goes in the right direction, then maybe more people will be able to get that kind of care. So, language surrounding disability. Let's talk about this a little bit, because I feel like I've been talking to people a lot about language and some uncomfortable feelings. So, but the one thing to remember is there is no golden rule. Like, you have to use your best judgment in situations. I'm going to give you a little bit of stuff to work with, but in general, our culture hasn't totally agreed on what to talk about with disability. So I'll just put out what I know and go from there. So, person first versus disability first language. So, where do you even start with this? So, person first language is saying like, I'm a person with a disability. I'm a person who is autistic. It's saying, it's separating the person from their disability. I don't particularly like that, only because I think that it almost pushes disability away like it's something evil, like it's something bad. And that's why I use disabled person all the time. But I know that a lot of people like prefer to be identified as a person with a disability. So really you have to use your best judgment. If your client or your like student is saying that they're a person with a disability, just mirror their language. Just do what they're doing. And that's the best advice I can really give you. And I put some other examples. I was on a website actually last night, and it was all about person first language. And they were saying how you can never call a disabled person because it's bad, it's terrible. And like it just went on for like 15 pages. And I couldn't read it. Okay, I just said mirror the language used by the client or student always. Just ask them if they prefer to be called. Probably just by their names. Okay, so what's the deal with the term wheelchair bound? Oof. I don't like that term at all. Does anybody know a better term?
Uses a wheelchair.
Yeah, that's good. Any other ones? I can say that in the disability community, just say person in a chair or chair user, because the wheels are, we already know they're wheels. So yeah, and then it just makes a wheelchair sound like it's a prison, like it's confining, when wheelchairs are freedom. They're part of people living their lives. So, yeah. And then the next word I put up is crip. This word has a lot of different connotations. Able-bodied people generally can't use the term crip. It's just not okay. It's an in-group kind of thing for people with disabilities. Like, I can call myself a crip anytime. It's just kind of how it is. I thought I'd put this in there because it's like reclaiming what people have been calling disabled people for years and years. It's like reclaiming that. It's like in the feminist community, we get explicit, but cunt, the word cunt, is now being reclaimed as like a positive part of identity. Same with crip. And then another term that I saw recently is neuroatypical, which is what a lot of people have been buzzing about online. It's a person who has mental illness or any kind of mental like diagnosis, and they're just calling themselves neuroatypical because they're not typical, and that's okay. And that's also a very like positive term. So in groups, again, you can choose different people or stay with the same, whatever you decide. Talk about some words that might be offensive. And just to preface this is a safe space. If you feel uncomfortable about anything, you're welcome to leave the room, welcome to take a breather, whatever works. But I just want you to sort of think about what words are maybe off limits with students or clients, and I'll give you a couple minutes to talk amongst yourselves.
Because I've really started trying to work with increasing my disability. I've been trying to cut out loose words, crazy, and
it actually surprises me when people
because
say that.
that is I'm only impressing myself by using those words in the hospital. It's like I'm not crazy and I'm not psycho. I just my brain is in fucked up ways sometimes. No, I think it is important.
Being like, oh, you think someone in this program, and you just assume like you learn so much that you can place in certain areas.
Like, it's just,
Or like someone you know, you're talking about like, oh, Logan got so drunk last night, she was going crazy.
yeah.
But
It's like you don't realize like some of the more people have that like it's
Yeah, insane.
but yeah, I feel like I don't. This makes me. Oh, really? Like they're autistic. Yeah.
the word house.
Yeah. Isn't because I have been a part of like this conversation when you talk about someone like being like so he's a little socially awkward and someone being like well like sexually awkward. I guess that you need to say something kind of or is that slow?
Using anything that's a disability or like supporting something.
And that feels like tone too.
The only thing that I knew.
No, not the socially awkward part, but being on the spectrum. Like being like this person is socially awkward, and then something that like within that conversation being like, well, I think they're together.
Oh, where I hear it, I thought one of them in a date relationships, and like
either or. So
when do you tell someone?
So making an assumption.
When is it too soon? When is it too late? Like,
What's
but
That's one of the ones that.
But like when you tell them and like the person being like, oh,
What is that?
mental illness? Like you're gonna be a crazy psycho at school. Like no, I just my brain's just fucked up sometimes, and I have episodes, and I take a bunch of pills.
Yeah, mental illness. I don't know if that's a lot. I just like being all over the place. Use it without.
Yeah.
Like jumping the topic.
Mental illness all of a sudden, right. But it's the flu, you got the right. You know what I mean? It's not. It doesn't sound like
Right.
And the way I'm working on the program about it is that it's a disability. And that's the way I've been trying to embrace it and trying to teach it to other people is that think of it as a disability. It's something that's a part of me that keeps me from doing certain things.
Yeah. A lot of people use that.
Yeah. And like I was saying in the program, like I would say like
I've had a lot of conversations about that.
I have a disability. There are certain
It's because what we came up with was like it kind of has to so
yeah, there has to be accommodation.
situation was crazy, like chaotic.
Yeah,
But if you're saying
that's
that's
why
they're crazy because they're
give me the same chance as someone
yeah.
Yeah, I see that all the time, and then I kind of think of like, sometimes like, no, banana, that's the same thing. But like, and like that person's psycho, or
Yeah.
that person's crazy, yeah. Especially when it's about
Or sociopath.
Yeah. And I've seen someone, I was at like a someone had, and there was this like bro who talked to me, and there was someone obviously with some like type of mental condition, like talking to themselves and doing something, and the guy was like, man, I was on so many drugs, like he was like, I just felt like, and I'm like, that person obviously has some sort of condition, like they're not on a drug, like they're hanging out, right? Their thing.
She wasn't,
But no, I feel like I don't talk about,
she
or at least
wasn't,
I'm not aware of talking about ability.
she wasn't taking right medication.
2 more minutes.
Maybe more
Right,
so
there were
talking about
something, and
having the privilege and not having to worry about things myself. Yeah. I probably talk about things and know better, but like I feel like I'm talking to somebody, so it's more
I mean, you can't, the thing about harmful it's something that they get under control with their doctor and with their therapist. And so what I end up telling people is like, I have bipolar. I have bipolar. I'm stable on my meds. I regularly go to a therapist. Sometimes I have bad days, and on those bad days, I need support. And luckily, I'm very vocal. If I need you to hug me, I will tell you to hug me.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to guess about what I need.
Oh, I don't know.
I won't fucking tell you, right? Right. And just like cuddle with me and watch Netflix.
It's just Photoshop. It's free.
I feel like I might be thinking. I don't know. I just
All right, everybody, we have to come back.
We got sworn.
I hear some great conversations happening, and I feel bad that I'm stopping. All right, let's brainstorm. So, anybody want to share some offensive terms?
I've been working hard at trying to cut out words like crazy and psycho and what was the other one that you said?
Mental illness.
Insane.
Same.
And Jill also said idiot, slow.
All right, how about another group? Anybody else?
Can you explain lame?
Lame is like another term for idiot or again, just somebody who's. How to explain this without being offensive myself?
Somebody who has physical disabilities, generally what it's associated with, In other words, like they're lame from their legs down, but a lot of people use the word lame as in like, oh my god, this is so lame.
Yeah.
So it's just colloquial changing in the definition, but originally it was identified for having
So I guess educated me personally, I've not heard this around the idea of handicap being now like not in because it was originally coming from the idea of hands in cap. So like people could not make their own money. And so it was a idea of like how people good. Good tidbit. Really good. Because yeah, that's a lot of these have historical implications, and that's why they're offensive generally. Any other offensive terms? Any more? What? Sorry?
Riri.
How do you spell it?
R-E-R-E. Riri.
Oh, I've never heard of that. What is that?
Retarded.
Yeah,
Retarded essentially.
Oh, okay.
I get it a lot. I work in a bar, and when I tell people that's what I want to do, like teach special education, teach sexual health education, the response that I've gotten most commonly is, "Oh, so you want to teach Riri's how to have sex?" It's
I've
happened,
never
and
heard that.
Maybe that's like regional because I've never heard them either.
Huh. That is a really weird shortening of the word. Any others?
I know in a lot of like schools, teachers will use like the term SPED to refer to kids who fall into the special education.
How about just the term special?
Special, yeah.
Yeah, I will say, isn't spectrum starting to get a little iffy? Used as a label. Yeah.
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 Is it?
Qualifier.
I have never heard that, but I'm gonna put it on the list just in case, because.
Like, is it when it's used
Yeah,
in a
give it like
certain
5
way?
years.
Yeah.
Give it 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. But like that might be true.
Well,
Do
we
you know
were
what I
talking
mean?
about it and saying like if you're making,
Like when you're
saying,
speculating
assuming,
about
like
someone.
if you're like, oh, they're probably on the spectrum. We're talking about like, or being like, oh, the actually
I know
knowing
this
and
person,
having a
they're on
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, give it 5 years, it'll be even more.
Yeah, it's kind of a buzzword right now. Isn't it?
Well, that's because it's really like central to the DSM-5. Like spectrums are a huge thing. So yeah, 5 years for sure.
All right. Any more?
Short bus.
I'm really impressed at the knowledge that this group has in offensive terms. I'm long. I'm being a little sarcastic. But yeah, this is quite a list. These are generally, don't use them when you're working with disabled people. Go ahead.
I don't mean to be rude anyways, but what is the correct term for somebody who's like is middle person?
Yeah, I've heard middle person.
I never know, so I just don't say.
I'm not an expert. I don't know.
If you do want information on that, I met a really amazing woman who has a website and tons of resources about every little thing that you can find about them.
So
It's little person or dwarfism. Dwarfism is the medical accurate term. Little people is dwarfism.
We're getting into it. All right. Good list. All right. One thing, this is really basic, and obviously you're going to do this because you're educators or we're clinicians, and that's just how it works. But I guess with thinking about disability, it's really important to understand your surroundings, understand the building that you're teaching in. I know this is not sexuality related, but it's really important. Think about maybe walk around the building first before you even have the session and find out where the accessible entrance is. Find out if the handicap button works, okay? Because I can't tell you how many places I've gone and the handicap button doesn't even work. And they're like, oh, we're accessible. No. Like in the eyes of the law, they may be, but you have to do your own research when you go through it. What is the parking situation? Are there handicap spots? How far away are they from the building? Because I actually, for this conference, I had to park like 3 blocks down. I mean, granted, I came late, but, you know, it's kind of far. But, yeah, so just scout it out, find out, you know, what's going on around you. And then another thing that maybe you may take for granted, I don't know, but narrow hallways. Like sometimes in older buildings, like especially in Philly, I've noticed a lot of older buildings have really narrow hallways. And like, I don't understand how 2 people can walk together in a hallway. It's so like narrow. But yeah, walk through the building. And then find out if there's a handicapped bathroom. And maybe even take a walk through it and see if there's a bar in the bathroom. And if the sink is accessible. Because sometimes, like, settings or areas will have, like, they'll say they have an accessible bathroom. And yes, the bathroom will be large, it will have the railings and everything, but the sink won't be accessible. So these are all things you need to think about. And what is the elevator like? I was going to put a star next to this one, but I was like, I'm just going to talk about it anyway. Elevators can be really creepy for disabled people, and for anybody. I've been in some pretty creepy elevators, like in the back of places where they tell me, oh, you need to go through the back because the front elevator is not working. I'm like, okay, fine. And it's like in the kitchen of some place, and it's a freight elevator, or it's not working, whatever it may be. Just take a look. And then think about temperature. I know that's not something, I mean, we all complain about if it's too hot or if it's too cold, but like really feel. Like right now, I feel very warm. That might be because I'm just like walking around and everything, but it's hot in here, and it probably would be uncomfortable for certain people who have sensory issues who may feel like it's just like suffocating them because it's so warm. And then another thing is if it's too cold, people like me with cerebral palsy, our muscles will tense up. And it'll be like walking like a toy soldier, like just can't bend at the knee because it's so cold. So try to think about that too. And then lighting. Is the lighting oppressive? Is it flickering? Anything like that can be a distraction. All right, I'm going to get into etiquette guidelines. Basic etiquette. You probably know that all of these, but I'm going to go through them anyway. Don't stare. Don't gawk. This baby is so adorable. But you really, really don't want to do that. I did read that in China, it's okay to stare and gawk. If anybody has information about that, let me know. I'm curious about what displays like overseas. But yeah, I kind of give a pass to little kids because I think little kids just, I don't really mind if they stare at me. Honestly, I don't mind if they want to come up and ask me questions. I think that's good. The parents are always like pulling them away from me, but you know, do what you can. This is another one that I run into all the time. It's so weird. Like at the bank, like somebody will be like, "Oh, I have a friend who uses crutches. Do you know her?" No, yes, I don't know your friend because we have like a series of pipelines. We all talk to each other. No. Basically, you don't want to assume that everybody knows each other. And just in general, I mean, able-bodied people, not every able-bodied person talks to each other, so there's a lot of people in this world. And this is a big one. We talked about this for a little bit. Don't assume a disabled person needs help. Don't assume that. This is like maybe the most important one for me personally. Help can be great and it can be terrible. Like, for instance, I was on the New Jersey Turnpike in one of those really crowded rest stops with Starbucks and everything, and I went in the bathroom. There's a little bit of water on the floor, and I slipped. I slip all the time. I trip all the time. It's part of my life. And I was about to get up, and a lady hooked her arms underneath my, like, hooked. It was really weird. It was really awkward for me. Like, she hooked her arms underneath my armpits and started lifting me off the ground. Didn't ask me if it was okay. Just started doing it. And I yelled at her to let me go, and she was like, "No, I'm just helping you. I'm just helping." Like, no, you're not. You need to go. To get out. But yeah, if you aren't sure what to do, just ask. I mean, it's so simple. Just take like 2 seconds and just ask. It's just a mindfulness thing. It's like, yes, with disabled people, you need to think first. With anybody, I think that you need to think first before you say something. Because you don't want to alienate your audience either. And something that, with this same guideline, in classes here at Widener, I've noticed that like the chairs or the desks will be very close together, and then everybody will want to start moving them out of my way. But I like a challenge, so I like a maze. I like to walk through things and find out if I can do it. So that's another thing to think about is disabled people are constantly learning about the world around them and their own bodies. And if they never have a chance to do something, how are they going to learn? I mean, like, I'm very passionate about this because it's like, I think for a lot of my life, I was helped, and I was helped, and I was helped, and I never actually learned how to do things. So now in my adult life, I'm like experiencing this rebirth of like everything is new, and it's great. So think about that. This goes with the previous guideline, is just avoid asking, are you sure? Generally, disabled people know their situation. They probably know their bodies quite well, like very well. And they probably know their abilities quite well. And asking if you're sure just puts like a space between the person with a disability and you because you're doubting them. You're essentially saying, oh, you don't know what you're doing, let me tell you. Or, you know, are you sure you can walk up this flight of stairs? I don't think you can handle it. You know, people say that stuff to me all the time, and I'm like, yeah, I can. It's all good, really. Yeah. So the next guideline is always talk directly to the disabled person. Really, really basic in that this is when a disabled person has a aide or an interpreter, or just a friend. I can tell you many stories about this. I use a wheelchair sometimes. It's just, I love it. It helps me get around. And usually when I'm in it and I'm with my friend, no like service workers or people who really try to talk to me, they'll always try to talk to my friend who's pushing me. And it drives me nuts. And I'll say like, okay, you know, you need to talk to me. I'm here. Hello. And then another thing is Disney World is like notorious for this problem. Like Disney World was one of the worst trips I ever took, but it was also a funny experience in a way too. It was like, yeah, but I was in my wheelchair pretty much the whole time at Disney, and every time I wanted to get onto a ride, the person working there would say, oh, does she want to get out of her wheelchair to her friend? Like, I can speak for myself, so it's an agency thing. It's like, allow the person to talk for themselves, even if they can't physically speak, just give them a chance to do it. And it's a respect, it's a huge respect, and you'll get a lot of rapport that way.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How it was explained to me by another person in a wheelchair or in a chair, they feel uncomfortable when people automatically go to kneel right next to them because they feel like they're invading their personal space. Can you talk to that in your own personal opinion, or do you let you ask you what makes you comfortable within that?
So let me just figure out what you're saying. You're saying like if I'm in my wheelchair and somebody wants to talk to me for a while
and talking to you, as opposed to standing over you to talk to them, is how it was described to me. He would like, don't kneel down and be like, oh, hi, how are you? Because it's almost condescending.
Yeah.
Like, find a chair and sit down with me.
That's the ideal situation if you find a chair. But kneeling, I mean, I can only speak from my experience on this. I think it's cool if people want to kneel and feel comfortable doing it. They just can't hold on to my wheelchair. I mean, I'd be happy to give them like a chair to hold on to, but yeah. That,
If they're trying to make eye contact with you and be on your level.
yeah.
But at the same time, they're almost doing it in an impressive way, is how it was explained to me.
There's a way to do everything, and there, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
The first time I was taught to kneel down to talk to a person is to talk to a child so you can get on their level so then they can be less afraid to use authority in the person and they can be on your level. So when I see that, I think like almost like they're feeling more superior by kneeling down because they were taught to do that to children, I guess.
That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, again, use your best judgment. Ask the person what they would prefer. I have a friend in a wheelchair. He uses a wheelchair. He like doesn't care what I do. He just doesn't. So I mean, it all depends on the individual. Like I said before, we're all snowflakes. Really unique. This is guideline number 6. Don't manipulate a disabled person's body without permission. I think I'm going to skip the YouTube clip. It's 25 seconds. I'll just explain it. It's Ryan Seacrest high-fiving a man who's blind.
I saw that.
Yeah, if you've seen it, you should, look it up on Google. Look it up. It's a really awkward high five. The man is just standing there celebrating his victory going to Hollywood, and Ryan Seacrest wants to give him a high five, so Ryan Seacrest is holding out his hand, doesn't realize what he's doing, and then he takes, the man who is blind, takes his hand into his hand and high fives him that way. That's so bad in so many ways. It's like laughably terrible because it's just taking somebody's body and controlling them. You don't want to do that with anybody. I mean, our bodies are our bodies. We do what we want with them. So, guideline number 7. Keep in mind that assistive devices enable freedom and independence, which we already touched on. My crutches have been more of them.
You're under the table.
Oh, cool. That's something I do all the time. But my crutches are like my freedom. They're the way that I get around in the world. And a lot of people that I come across in daily life end up sort of looking at me like, oh, it's so sad you have to use crutches. That's so terrible. I'm like, well, if I didn't use crutches, I really wouldn't be able to get anywhere without hurting my spine. So it's like, it's fine. It's all good. Did anybody have a question? Guideline number 7. Oh, these devices are very personal and should not be touched without permission. Very basic. Ask, again, permission. This is going to come up all the time. Disabilities. Ask. A good example of that is I was at the grocery store and I always put my crutches down to load the groceries onto the conveyor belt. That's just how I do things. And a woman saw me do this. She saw me put them down, and I guess she thought I dropped them or something. And she goes, oh, let me get those for you. And I said, no, I don't want you to get them for me. I put them down there for a reason. And also, I kind of went off on her a little bit. I was like, I think you really need to ask permission first. That's really important. And she's like, oh, why? Is that because it would be awkward if we both were to grab for them at the same time? Like, how is that even a cognitive? I don't get it. But yeah, I pretty much had to explain to her that they're like extra, like my arm extensions. Like, they're me. They're part of me. Don't touch them. And she got offended, by the way. She was very offended that I didn't accept her help. And then also guide dogs are a big thing because I know a lot of people who are blind or have emotional therapy dogs where people just start coming up to them and touching them, patting them, and thinking, oh, they're pets. They're not pets. They're working. They're doing their job. They're quite helpful. And they're not devices. I shouldn't put them under devices. They're horrible, I'm sure. But guideline number 8. Avoid treating students/clients with disabilities as an inspiration just because of their disabilities. There's a great TED Talk on this by Stella Young. She's now passed, but she does a great talk about how she was celebrated as a kid for for doing nothing just because she's disabled. And I feel like I definitely got the same treatment, like especially with, I'm not gonna lie, with my high school scholarships getting into college, my disability helped me a lot because people felt so terrible for me that they wanted to give the help to me because they thought I couldn't do it on my own. And then inspiration, I don't know if anybody's heard of the term inspiration porn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, good. I figured you would. This is a good example of it. It says the only disability in life is a bad attitude. And this is like, it's like using a disabled person as an object for making you feel better. I think I explained.
I think a good, another example of that is on Facebook, there's always videos being liked by millions of people of their fathers walking, the fathers who are wheelchair bound, walking their daughter down the aisle. And while I understand that's an emotional moment in that person's life and they did something for that, the fact that now millions of people are liking something like that says that that's, in order to take somebody down the aisle, you need to walk them. And I think that's one of those lines, like I saw a video of it and I got really mad and ended up defending my friend because of it. It really upsets me.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, I get that. I think that's kind of an antiquated tradition anyway.
Yeah.
Walking down the aisle, I mean, I get it. I definitely get it, but I understand where you're
It's just
coming
another
from.
form of disability.
And just make sure you use the term wheelchair user.
Yes, sorry,
It's okay.
it's a new one.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's why they're here. That's a Stella Young TED Talk. I thought I might show a little bit of it, but you can look that up. Guideline number 9. When working with individuals with disabilities, remember to be creative. Stay open and flexible because things are going to come up and you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, how do I prepare? You can't. You just can't. You have to be on the fly sometimes. And just stay creative. We're all creative anyway. We're sexologists. That's just how it goes. Now to the disability and sexuality portion. Just a little tidbit. That's Jillian Mercado. She is a model, professional model. She's amazing. She's in a Diesel ad. She's very outspoken about disability, and she's very, very proud. And I think that's great. She's very sexy. And then this is a play on the American Apparel ads, and it's this girl. She did a whole series of them, and you can find them online. They're fabulous. And I thought I'd put it up for the sexuality part because she clearly is sexual. I mean, look at her. What are some common misconceptions about disability and sexuality? Just raise your hand.
Oh, me? When we were talking about mental health disabilities, partners thinking that you're gonna become the crazy ex-girlfriend.
That sexuality is not important because there are so many other things going on in life.
Yes, I'm glad you said that one.
A lot of people make the assumption that if somebody's disabled, that they are not able to consent.
One of the things that Feminista Jones said about there is kind of a fear of people with disabilities having children, and there's almost like a fear of like if they're sexual then they'll have children and maybe it's passed down genetically and they'll have children that have the same disability.
Because there will be too many disabled people in the world. You can't have that. Yeah, go ahead.
That sexuality with someone who is disabled will be difficult.
Yeah, that's a very common misconception. It's quite easy. Yeah, I'm back.
Or that it might be inappropriate.
Kind of jumping off what they said. Yeah, sorry. That they cannot have normal sex. That they people with disabilities cannot have normal sex, and then therefore any person who has disabilities and is also having sex is inherently fetishized and not normal.
Oh yeah. Good job. Wow, listing those. Fantastic. Just, I mean, I don't have to tell you this, but those are obviously untrue. Yeah, I was going to go through them all, but I think we can just go to questions. Just go right to the end. Yeah, I do a lot of misconceptions. Oh, that people with disabilities are not sexually adventurous. That was what I found online, and I thought, how is? Then I realized, yeah, that would be the way to think about it. When I say people, I mean like general culture. I'm not referring to like specific people that I have interacted with. It's just, oops. Let's just go.
Actually, I just thought one of the most damaging ones I've heard is the idea that having sex with a disabled person is charity.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
That they're always going to be heterosexual.
Yeah.
And then there's a huge social stigma with individuals who want to have sex surrogacy, especially in the United States, because it's not really legal. And there's a lot of confrontation on whether or not a sex surrogate should work with a person with disability, or that it's able to have access to sex surrogacy. For similar reasons to what you just said.
Yeah, I think sex surrogacy would be an amazing thing if we could establish it here in the United States. Because I know a lot of other countries are sort of putting it in like health plans, adding it to general care. But here we can't get past the fact that disabled people have sex. And we need to get past that as educators and clinicians. We need to somehow change the cultural understanding of what disability and sexuality. Any other questions?
Not really a question, just something that I think around disability and sexuality is just with the ideas and the way that our culture, so if we view just sexuality in general, and the way that it's kind of like it's so out in the present, but at the same time people try to like hide it away. And so I think of like disabling environments is like one theory that I know of around how like, our world wasn't plopped onto land that way. We built the world up, right? From nothing, essentially. And so through that, we create the idea of disability because it was not originally laid out that way. And so in a sense of sexuality, I think of spaces that are sexualized. So getting into even sex shops, which are often on the top or bottom floors of places that are in back alleys that are you cannot access if you're not able to actually physically go into the spaces. Or for example, I went to like an annual fetish party or whatever in Toronto, and to get in, you had to go up 8 flights of steps, and not only that, but they were playing, and it said like everyone welcome, like blah blah blah, and they were playing these videos of like some of the audience members essentially doing like the acts, and like every single one of them were able-bodied. They were like, oh, we do this, like they were preaching that they had this wide like variety of people and like all the inclusions and all of this. And my friend basically about like just in an idea of like disability studies around this event, just because that's like unfolded to me very often.
Was it an event for disabled people?
No, it wasn't. But the way that the poster was presenting, it was like kind of like mentioning like ability and things. And then when we got there, you had to go up 3 flights of steps that were all like separated by narrow hallways. And to get to the coat check, you had to go up different set of steps, like all. Yeah, just something that I think about is like sexuality events and like things like that are often so hidden that like to get to them is almost inaccessible.
Thank you for that. I actually didn't even think about that because I don't go to sexuality events, but I should go to more because I'm not always sure how accessible they are, and if I want to go and be in a room with a lot of people, it's not always safe for me to do that. But yeah, go ahead.
One that I have personally run into, almost all of my medications say do not take while pregnant. So, so if I ever get into a position in my life where I want to have a child, biologically, I have to make the decision of, do I not have a child biologically and stay on my medications, or do I have a child biologically and let my mental illness run rampant for 9 months, which could put the baby and myself in danger in the first place.
Yeah. Medications have some serious chemicals in them, and I hope that they can get better and more like safe for pregnant women to take. I actually didn't know that at all.
Yeah, every single one of my medications says do not take while pregnant or breastfeeding.
Any other questions?
You mentioned earlier wanting to kind of know what was happening abroad. I don't really know a lot in terms of non-Westernized civilizations, or cultures rather, but in the UK, there's a massive movement for physical disabilities, and there's actually social clubs that are like scripted towards sexuality specifically. Kentucky Owens is a really great resource. If you like, I'm sure you've read a couple of her books. Anybody else that's interested, she writes a lot of different things and has a lot of information on the social clubs that happen, social sexual clubs that happen. And understanding those things, I think, is important, especially if we ever want to bring it to the States, because they have it up and running. But one of the things that I have an issue with is that it's only for physical disabilities. Nothing else.
So, okay, so going to the same question too. I grew up in Israel. I came from Israel. I moved to when I was 10, 2 days before my 10th birthday. But the reason why my family pretty much moved to was because I wasn't getting the accommodations I needed with my long disability. I know, I don't know physical disabilities and such, but it's been a long time since I noticed anything like disabilities over in Israel. With learning disabilities, they try to I guess, accommodate you, but they have the same, you have the same classes. You have a different classes that separate you, but you have pretty much the same classes with one teacher. You have 50 kids. With learning disabilities, you need the individual attention, but they give you 50 kids with one teacher. The ratio is also, and they try, I guess they teach you, they don't challenge you, like academically. They kind of give you books and such that will stagnate you, and they don't really try to move along. So, but the reason why my family came was because in third grade, that's this was my family talking, but in third grade, my teacher told me like if he doesn't improve academically, we'll have to put him in like a different school for like disabled individuals. So in that sense, I think they try to at least one to the disabled individuals. They try to kind of shift the movement to a different place to really kind of hide the fact. So that's my family. Here it's just so different. They give you like I got 3 teachers. I got like 1 teacher and 3 helpers, and the ratio was like 20, 3 to 20 or so. And it was like they challenged you, but in your level. It really for this country it's better in that sense. But still.
That reminds me about like special education in this country. Usually the rooms are in the basement of the building, or they're like hidden in some way. My mom's a special education teacher, and her classroom was moved from being up in the main area to like essentially the basement. There were no windows in her room, and it was tiny, and she had 15 kids. it's just because the school just keeps pushing them down partially because of funding, but because they essentially want to hide these kids from all the other kids. It's like a different kind of segregation happening here. Yeah, it's a sad fact, but maybe we can change it. I hope. Yeah. Anything else?
Thank you.